I was never a member of Plaid Cymru. I voted for them a couple of times, but I was never really very happy with what I understood of their policies. I got disappointed when the candidates would say something yet they never delivered. And I found, for me, trust is a big thing, and I found I really couldn't trust them. And as I got to personally know a few MPs, there were two that I liked at Plaid Cymru, but the others I thought were just, they weren't working for me at all. I'd noticed that where I lived, everything that I touched, like, you know, the roads were worst, education wasn't that good, transport was awful, the lack of well-paid jobs was a real big thing, and that irked me. I found, why is where I live getting worse? My town in Llanrwst at one time, okay, I'm going back a few years, there was an awful lot of industry, you know, including a soft drinks company, there was a foundry, rope makers, timber exporters, there's loads of industry, and yet it's not there now, it's all gone. You know, even the big industry was farming, agriculture was huge, you know, weekly markets, they're not as big as they used to. And certainly over the years I found that farming in Wales has been getting hammered. What is so wrong about farming? In the current state of Europe now, we don't know how bad it'll go, but don't you think that at one time that farmers are going to be very important? I felt that after reading a little bit, not much, in a certain blog, that finally there was a chance that these people in Gwlad could actually make a difference. Well, I actually got to talk to a few of the founder members, and I liked them, and I felt they were genuine and sincere rather than career politicians. They were people that actually lived life, seen life, and knew what they were about, rather than learning in a college or something like that, you know.
Did you speak to?
Yeah. I spoke to Gwyn.
You like Gwyn, do you?
I have huge respect for Gwyn, yes. I mean...
But he was in Plaid once, wasn't he?
Yes, but Plaid, since then, I feel Plaid has changed. How should I say this? I think Plaid has walked away from people like me, rather than me walked away from Plaid.
What's their agenda?
There was, I remember listening to Leanne Wood, and I was trying to work out what she was saying, and all it was give us more money, give us more money. I mean, why don't we earn it? Where are our local businesses to pay our tax? Yeah, I found it a little bit left-wing, whereas for me, I was a production engineer, that's what I was trained to do. And that generally is to make things to earn profit, to run the country. You know, it sounds like a very honest thing to do, but why was Wales dependent on somebody else? So I thought, hang on, we've been told for years that we're too small, too poor and too thick. And when you think Isle of Man's doing all right, and when you think San Marino is doing really well, that's 23.5 square miles. That's the same size as Llandudno, Penrhyn. But for a start, our youngsters that leave school, right? Well, we push our children through school. Do well in your exam, get good grades, go to university, get a degree, get a master's, whatever. Get a good job. That was the thing. I was brought up in that vein. I wasn't very clever, but we all do that with our children. But where are the good jobs? There are none local. So in effect, our children have earned the right. They've worked hard to get their grades. It's not easy. So where are the jobs? Well, they're certainly not in Cymru. They're over the other side of Offa's Dyke. So our children, who are our most valuable asset at the end of the day, and these where our new entrepreneurs come from, but they've gone elsewhere. And even yesterday at a little garden centre, somebody I used to work with many years ago said, "Did I see you on the internet?" "Yes, you did." "Well, you're Robert," so I explained it. And he said, "Yeah, all my kids did well at college and they could never get work. And so where are they now?" "Well, one's in America, one's in Northern Ireland, and one's in London." so they're not home now.
So that's
My wife and I were both workaholics, and we did what society wanted us to do. We got married, bought a house, used local labour facilities to rebuild the house, had children, put them through school, college, and all the rest of it, and all the difficulties that you could have with children, you know, that as the children grow up. And with one daughter, we did have, she did have a few issues that were very emotionally draining. I'm not going to. And there's no two ways she flourished. She got a degree, she got a master's. And as I said, then she said, well, what are you going to do now? I said, well, there's nothing for me in Wales. Now, my wife we've done our dues to society. You know, we did what society expects for us. We volunteered here all over the place and looked after our neighbours and our elderly parents. We've done everything. And I just thought, I'd failed. I'd done my bit, but there's no work for my children. Yeah, I had my own business for 20 years, specialising in Land Rovers and Range Rovers. And it was seriously, seriously hard work. And I think the self-employed people that even survive are absolute heroes. I really do. It was not easy. There was a constant fight every year to get your rates down to a normal level. Like next year's rate would be 300%. And it was on a garage that I built in the station yard. And I understand you need to pay rates, but why was it crippling me? And it wasn't a case of I wasn't working hard enough, because I remember the first few years I was averaging close to 90 hours a week. There was no going out for beer, there was no going out for dinner or pictures, it was just work, work, work. You know, we're very much in the backwater, and that's it. And even for the small political parties, how do they get the word out? It's really difficult. Well, it seems to be very difficult to put adverts in the paper or even get anything or in the media. Certainly social media has been the best thing for Glad to get known, you know, but there's no two ways. Though I'm not on social media. I mean, I don't even know how to switch our television on, but there we go. But it's certainly made quite a difference. Yeah. I mean, I know all the committee, and they're all sort of decent, everyday people like myself. You know, they've run business, not necessarily run business, but they've seen life. And I think I think Glad is a good product that would probably sell yourself, and people need to make the effort and read our manifesto. And it's quite simple. You know, what's wrong, what we propose, and why we think we propose. And it's quite simple. And just take the time to read that. Rather than,
how would you summarise Gwyn, for example, the leader of Glad?
He's a very sincere, down-to-earth gentleman, Desire. I certainly think that we could do better. I certainly think we could do better. Over the years, Plaid Cymru have mentioned independence not full time. We do. We're on about independence. I know it's not going to happen this week or this year, or maybe not in my lifetime. But if we get people actually aiming for there, if we let our youngsters know the benefits of independence, I think our job will be done. But Plaid Cymru, they mention independence, then they don't to suit their needs, and sometimes they take the word independence off all the social media stuff, and then they bring it back in. I remember years ago going to see Gwynfor Evans. It was in Cardiff. I was down there, and I thought, I'll go and see what this fella has to say. I wasn't very hopeful, and to be honest, he was remarkable. I will be honest. I agreed with everything that he himself said. And he was a genuine person. He did stand up in the House of Commons while other MPs were calling him murderers and nationalist and traitor and this, that and the other. But there was no malice at all in the man. And he stood there, and I thought he was quite brave to take that kind of verbal attack, you know. But what he was saying was just sensible. And we have a big thing in Wales, it's called chwarae teg. It means a lot more than fair play, you know, and I just didn't see it happening in politics. Oh, vote glad. No, please read our manifestos. Don't just write us off.
Ron was saying there, very clear, is we export youth, we export youngsters. It's one of our biggest exports, and it's a shame. That's the first thing. Many of them do come back because they want to raise a family and everything, because it's a lovely place to be. They want their children to go to countryside and rural schools, and maybe there's an idyllic sort of view of things, but nevertheless, why not? That's the first thing. The second thing is, we were talking about Gwynfor Evans, who was a bit of a hero for myself, and I don't believe that, I'm not sure if Gwynfor Evans would want to be a member of Plaid Cymru if he was alive, not necessarily today, but certainly in the last 10 years, if not more, because there is the one thing that Gwlad has tried to make sure of is we're not left, we're not right, but what's right for Wales. And that is one of the things that is missing in the message from Plaid Cymru. I mean, it had to be left or extreme left. People used to say at one stage that we are right of Plaid Cymru. Well, everybody was right of Plaid Cymru. Even the Communist Party was right of Plaid Cymru at one stage. And they actually ruined quite a lot of the good work that people like Gwynfor had done in the past.
This chap,
Gwynfor Evans, he was the leader of Plaid.
What was it about him?
Totally genuine, totally straight, didn't waffle. And he was, again, one of the people, and we tried to be not career politicians. He made a career of it, but he used to grow tomatoes. And he had a big, big operation.
What did you like about him, Ron?
I just thought he was a very sincere person. I only met him once, and he was quite open in what he was saying, you know. And
When did he died, did he?
He's died now, yes.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
So when did he leave Plaid then? When would he?
He never left Plaid.
He never left
No.
Plaid.
And his children and grandchildren have carried on in Plaid Cymru, and his grandson is the member of the Senedd for Gwynedd now.
You broke away from Plaid in the 1980s, which I want to talk to you a little bit more
No,
about.
I didn't. Plaid Cymru broke away from me, and that's very important, the difference. They changed, I didn't. And therefore I went into the wilderness for a while because I got fed up, despondent, and I then decided with about 80 other people to get together, and we decided to form Gwlad. Enough was enough, because if we didn't vote Plaid Cymru, for whatever reason, who do you vote for? Because they're all unionists. They all want London. They all want to be under the yoke of London. Now, if you listen to the people of Brexit, and we know who they are today, who were in Brexit, that would be some of the arguments that they used against Brussels would be some of the Wexit arguments if Wales was to exit the UK. And to have a federal system, to have a chat and get together with the other countries, not a problem, but on equal terms. I've travelled the world with work with textiles, and there are 197 independent countries. We're the odd one out not being independent. And that is the thing that's very difficult to get over to people, because they also complain, we've had 27 years of Labour rule in Cardiff, etc. Yes, but we've had 700 years from Westminster. So where did it go wrong?
Do you think when Plaid?
Because they are professional politicians now. They're more interested in general in their pension scheme. And it is very clear, because Ellen Jones, for instance, she became the president, Llywydd, for 2 terms. So she couldn't ask anything about anything in Ceredigion. No, she chose to do it. She could choose not to.
The lady whose partner is a journalist. That's
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
you know, that's in public domain.
Yeah.
And do you feel that the media your relationship, I think it's really important that we talk about GLAD's relationship with the media. Do you think it's been very difficult for you? I know Nation Cymru have done certain articles on you, Martin Shipton, the BBC have not done a lot of anything on
Totally
GLAD at all.
ignored, basically, from the BBC. I'm very grateful, and I've said so to ITV for putting us on sharp end, and they put us in a grouping of small parties, and we are a small party. There's nothing wrong with that. But at least they acknowledged us and gave us an opportunity.
People
This
need
is
to know
not
you exist.
democracy.
No, people,
Leader of Plaid Cymru used to work in the media,
yes.
so his intro into it is pretty good. But well done, why not?
There seems to be a connection between S4C and Plaid Cymru, definitely.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
sense.
I think that's always been, to be fair, because Gwynfor Evans, who's the one who decided to what is that? Is to starve himself to death unless we had the channel. And Margaret Thatcher changed her mind, and the channel. She said we could have the channel, then she said not, and then Quentin Hogg said no, you're not having it. After they got into power, so Gwynfor Evans said I'm going to starve myself to death. Because that was the promise,
Yeah.
and they changed their mind, and Esperorec.
So that makes kind of sense why S4C implied it.
Yeah, there's a link. Yeah,
But it would be
understandable,
if
and also the
undemocratic.
language, You know,
Absolutely.
it's a natural in many ways. I wouldn't blame anybody for that.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see how you try and get in on these media
You see, the
channels,
other-
'cause you are growing on social media without a shadow of a
Yeah,
doubt. The videos-
that's the thing about the social media bit, and where we are very lucky to have you on board, is that if the normal channels ignore us, we've got to go up above and beyond them. We've got to bypass them.
Well, I think that's how Reform grew, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then they got their leader.
You mean
on,
you
they
mean
got the,
Reform UK Limited brackets Wales brackets Cymru? Yeah, that one. Yeah.
yeah, but they grew, I think, through social media as well.
Sure.
And it's one way to grow a party, I think, in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But you're not on social media, so you were able to find out about GLAD through other means, were you?
Yes, I read this, a certain blog.
So you were on a website.
Yeah, and I have just enough skills to do that.
Jack of the North, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Jack. Yeah,
And it was a blog, and then he kind of started this meeting. It was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You joined GLAD then, or you just?
I joined I joined about 2 months before the launch.
And still you are here. No
and-
regrets.
Yeah, no, none at all. You know, I am an absolute political virgin, and I've not once have I ever thought I'd done the wrong choice. You know, I honestly, I am a real cynic.
He is.
And you know, like all parties, we may not be happy with every little item, but you have to go
It's
as
impossible to be, isn't it?
yeah, you have to be together to go.
You feel united, you feel strong, it's very genuine.
Yeah.
People are involved. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
We are very united, and
yeah.
we do have open discussion. I wouldn't even call it an argument. It's an open discussion, and we encourage it. We ask people to do so, in the same way that if you understand where we come from, many of us, if you worked on your own, if you had your own company, whether you employed people or not, I didn't employ people for many years, being self-employed, is you've got nobody else to blame when things go wrong.
No.
And you've got nobody else to celebrate with when things go right. But the understanding is that you get the job done to the end. Whereas what is happening with the politicians now at local level and national level is, I sent an email. Well, that is not the job. What is the result of it? Well, I don't know. I didn't get an answer. Well, there you go. One of the reasons for having somebody from GLAD in the Senedd is we are very, very good at scrutiny. they added the 36 members to the 60 for scrutiny. We ask all the wrong questions, but at the right time. And I've done that personally in Ceredigion, and I think that some of the top people in Ceredigion will be voting for me because they want to get rid of me down to Cardiff, because I've become a pain. And I'm actually proud of that, because I'm for the voters, for the people who put me in. There's one comment that stuck in my head. A local guy who runs his own business, he said, "Don't forget, we haven't voted you to be quiet." And I think about that very often, about, gosh, he'll be listening to this. What should I say when? And in I go. And very often they are, as far as the establishment is concerned, the Yes Minister people, they are inappropriate questions, but they are appropriate for the people who voted for me.